Why men return to you after no on time. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a man walk away only to come back like a boomerang just when you've moved on? And you wonder, why now? Why does he suddenly miss you? I'll tell you why. Because human psychology is wired in a way that when something becomes scarce, we value it more. You see, most people operate out of fear or comfort. And when a man pulls away, he expects you to chase. But when you don't, when you hold your power, something shifts inside him. He starts feeling that emptiness, that void. And the mind does what it always does. It starts rationalizing why he should return. And when something is always available, it's taken for granted. This is basic human nature. Think about the last time you had unlimited access to something, whether it was attention, affection, or even material possessions. You didn't think much about it because it was always there. But the moment it was gone, suddenly it became important. This is exactly what happens when a man pulls away and you do not chase. In his mind, he assumes you'll still be there, waiting, hoping, longing for his return. But when you do the opposite, you stay silent, focus on yourself, and make no effort to reach out, you disrupt his expectations. He starts to feel your absence in ways he didn't anticipate. At first, he may not notice. He's busy with his life, distracted by work, friends, or maybe even someone new. But as time passes, something shifts. That message he expected from you, it never came. That moment when he assumed you'd check in, it didn't happen. The predictability of your presence is gone, and suddenly he starts questioning. The male mind is wired to appreciate what is scarce. When something feels too easy to obtain, the emotional investment is low. But when something feels like it could be lost, the brain assigns it a higher value. This is why people chase what they believe they can't have. It's not always about love. It's about psychology. Men are naturally competitive. When something is no longer within reach, it triggers an instinct to regain control. The moment he realizes you are not sitting around waiting, the doubt begins. He starts to wonder if you ever cared as much as he thought. He begins to question why you aren't reacting the way he expected. This is where curiosity kicks in, and curiosity is a powerful driver of action. He might check your social media, hoping for a sign that you're missing him. He might replay old memories, wondering if he made a mistake. That's when the idea of reaching out starts forming in his mind. What's happening here is deeper than just a temporary loss. It's the realization that the dynamic has shifted. Before, he had the power to walk away, knowing you'd be there if he changed his mind, but now he's not so sure. That uncertainty breeds urgency. He may not have even appreciated what you brought to his life until he experienced life without it. When you make yourself scarce, you force him to reassess your value in his life. And this isn't about manipulation, it's about recognizing the way the human mind works. The most powerful position you can take is to do nothing. To hold your energy, to invest in yourself, and to let him experience the weight of your absence. Because when something becomes rare, when something is no longer easy to obtain, it naturally becomes more desirable. He doesn't come back because he's changed. He comes back because your absence changed him. When a man pulls away, he often expects a reaction. He assumes you will reach out, ask questions, seek closure, or try to fix whatever went wrong. This is because in most relationships, people develop patterns of behavior. If you were once someone who gave him constant reassurance, attention, or effort, he expects that pattern to continue. When you don't, it disrupts his expectations in a way that forces him to notice. This is where the shift begins. The human mind craves predictability, and when that predictability is removed, it creates discomfort. That discomfort leads to curiosity, and curiosity leads to action. People are wired to appreciate certainty. When a relationship feels secure, there is no urgency to act. But when something becomes uncertain, the mind fixates on it. The moment you stop chasing, you introduce uncertainty. He begins to wonder, why hasn't she reached out? Did she move on? Does she even care? These questions start to occupy his thoughts, even if he was initially confident in his decision to pull away. The lack of expected behavior triggers an internal response that compels him to seek answers. At first, he might not even be fully aware of it. It could start as a passing thought, a brief moment of wondering what you're up to. Then, as more time passes, the thought lingers longer, he notices the absence of your messages, he realizes the conversations that once felt routine are no longer happening, the comfort of knowing you were always there has disappeared. This creates an emotional imbalance. When something that was once predictable becomes unavailable, the brain perceives it as a loss. The moment he starts feeling like he's losing something, he begins to reassess its value. Men, by nature, like to feel in control. When he walked away, he likely believed he had control over the situation. He may have thought you would wait, wonder, or even chase after him. But when you don't, he experiences a shift in power. The dynamic changes. Instead of feeling like the one making the decisions, he begins to feel like the one being left behind. This is what makes him rethink his actions. He might start checking your social media, trying to get a sense of where you are emotionally. He may find himself tempted to send a casual message just to see if you still respond the way you used to. He may even test the waters with a simple "hey," hoping to gauge a reaction. The more you resist the urge to chase, the stronger this effect becomes. He expected you to react, and when you didn't, it forced him into a position of uncertainty. This is why so many men return after no contact, not because they had a sudden epiphany, but because the absence of your expected behavior made them question their assumptions. That questioning leads to curiosity, and curiosity is often the first step toward regret. When someone is always present, their absence isn't felt, but the moment they step away, something shifts. In relationships, people don't always recognize what they have until it's no longer there. This is why absence is such a powerful force. It creates an emotional impact that forces reflection. When you remove yourself from someone's life, you give them the space to experience what it's like without you, and that experience can be more powerful than anything you could ever say or do. At first, a man may not consciously notice the absence. He may feel confident in his decision, assuming that life will go on as usual. But as time passes, something unexpected happens. The moments that were once filled with you, your presence, your energy, your support are now empty. The texts that used to come in at a certain time no longer appear. The calls he once took for granted have stopped. The rhythm of his life has changed, and even if he doesn't fully understand why, he feels it. Human nature is wired to seek what is missing. The mind naturally gravitates toward what it no longer has access to. This is why memories become more vivid in the absence of the person who created them. When you are no longer around, his mind begins to fill in the blanks. He starts recalling the way you laughed, the way you made him feel, the small things you used to do that he barely noticed before. What once seemed ordinary now carries a different weight. The emotional impact of your absence starts to settle in, and with it comes a growing sense of longing. This process isn't immediate, it builds over time. In the beginning, it might just be a fleeting thought, something small like hearing a song that reminds him of you or passing by a place you once visited together. But as those moments accumulate, they begin to take root. He may try to brush them off, distracting himself with work, friends, or other people, but the feeling lingers. No matter how much he tries to suppress it, the mind has a way of returning to what feels unresolved. What makes this so powerful is that it happens internally. No one is telling him to miss you. No one is forcing him to rethink his choices. It's happening naturally, simply because you are no longer there. And the more he sits with that absence, the more it starts to affect him. He may try to rationalize his feelings, convincing himself that he made the right decision, but logic rarely wins against emotion. This is why space is so important. It allows someone to process what they've lost without interference. If you were constantly reaching out, checking in, or trying to remind him of your worth, he wouldn't have the opportunity to feel it for himself. But when you step back and allow absence to do its work, it creates a powerful emotional shift. One that makes him question, reflect, and ultimately crave what he once had. Energy is everything in relationships. People are naturally drawn to those who radiate confidence, independence, and self-assurance. When you shift your energy from seeking validation to focusing on yourself, you create an entirely different dynamic, one that makes you more attractive without even trying. This isn't about playing games or using tactics to manipulate someone into missing you. It's about recognizing that when you prioritize your own growth, happiness, and fulfillment, people notice. And when a man senses that shift, it triggers something deep within him. When a woman is constantly giving, chasing, or seeking reassurance, her energy is outwardly focused. She is investing more in the other person than in herself, and whether she realizes it or not, that energy can be felt. It often comes across as neediness, insecurity, or attachment, but the moment she redirects that energy inward toward her own passions, goals, and self-worth, everything changes. She no longer needs someone to validate her because she has already validated herself. That shift is powerful. It's magnetic, and it creates a natural pull that draws people back in. Men, like all humans, are deeply intuitive when it comes to energy. They may not always be able to articulate what they feel, but they can sense when something is different. When a woman who once sought his attention suddenly seems unbothered, it disrupts his perception of the situation. He begins to wonder what changed. Why isn't she reaching out? Why does she seem happier without him? Did she meet someone else? These thoughts spark curiosity, and curiosity often leads to action. This shift in energy doesn't just make you more attractive to one specific person, it makes you more attractive in general. People are drawn to confidence. They are intrigued by someone who radiates self-worth and doesn't rely on external validation. When you stop making someone else the center of your world and instead become the center of your own, your entire aura changes. You walk differently, you speak differently, you carry yourself with an ease and grace that is impossible to ignore. This is why so many men return after a woman stops chasing. It's not necessarily because they had a sudden realization about their feelings, it is because they feel the energetic shift. Before, they may have felt in control, knowing that she was always there, always available. But when that energy is no longer directed at them, they feel the loss. Right? They feel the loss, and that loss creates a void. The irony is that by the time a man feels this shift and decides to return, the woman who has truly embraced her power may no longer be interested. She has moved on, not because she was waiting for him to come back, but because she genuinely started prioritizing herself. And that is the ultimate transformation. When you stop chasing and start elevating yourself, you don't just regain your power, you redefine what you deserve. And in that space of self-love and self-respect, the right people either step up or step aside. The moment a man returns after no contact, many women focus on why he's back. They analyze his words, his timing, and his intentions. But the real power isn't in why he returned. It's in recognizing that you now hold the power. The dynamic has shifted. Before, he may have been the one who walked away, leaving you with questions, doubts, and the emotional weight of the situation. But by choosing not to chase, by focusing on yourself, you put yourself in a position of strength. Now, the decision is yours. It's no longer about whether he wants to come back. It's about whether you want to let him back in. When a man pulls away, he often assumes he has control. He thinks that if he ever changes his mind, he can return and things will go back to the way they were. But when you stay silent and invest in your own life, something unexpected happens. He realizes that he is no longer in control of the situation. He starts to wonder if you've moved on, if you're happier without him, or if you even think about him at all. That uncertainty is what brings him back. But just because someone returns doesn't mean they deserve a place in your life. This is where many women make a critical mistake. They feel relief when he reaches out, as if his return is proof that he finally values them. But the truth is, just because a man misses you doesn't mean he has changed. Missing someone is an emotional response. Changing for the better is a conscious decision. If a man comes back but still offers the same inconsistent behavior, the same lack of effort, or the same emotional unavailability, then nothing has truly shifted. This is why the question isn't, why is he back? The real question is, does he align with the version of me that I've become? By the time he returns, you've likely grown. You've spent time rediscovering yourself, rebuilding your confidence, and creating a life that isn't dependent on someone else's validation. So when he shows up again, asking for another chance, you are no longer the same person he left behind, and that is where your power lies. You get to decide whether his return adds value to your life, or whether it's simply a test to see if you've truly learned your worth. Many men return not because they've had a life-changing realization, but because they feel the absence of the security you once provided. They come back to see if you're still available, if they still have a place in your heart. But if you've done the inner work, you won't see his return as a victory. You'll see it as an opportunity to make the best decision for yourself. When you focus on your own growth, the right people will either rise to meet your standards, or they will stay in the past where they belong. Either way, you win. At the end of the day, the real power isn't in whether a man comes back, it's in the choices you make when he does. You've learned that absence creates value, that people expect you to chase, that emotional impact is strongest when you step back, and that your energy shift determines the outcome. But most importantly, you've realized that you hold the power. No one else gets to dictate your worth, your happiness, or your future. So when he returns, don't see it as a moment of validation. See it as a moment of clarity. Does he align with the version of yourself that you've worked so hard to become? Does his return add to your life, or is it simply a test to see if you've truly stepped into your strength? Because when you stand in your power, the right people won't just return, they will show up in ways that match your worth. And those who can't, they will stay in the past where they belong. Thank you for being here today, for investing in yourself, and for stepping into the highest version of who you are meant to be. Remember, you are the prize. You are the one who gets to decide what kind of love, respect, and energy you allow into your life. Keep choosing you, keep growing, and watch how the right people rise to meet you. Until next time, stay strong, stay confident, and never forget your worth. You've got this.